Salam, everyone. Hope you are all doing well. This is the second video of our part two, which is on impact analysis. So, to just recall, in the first video, we really talk about impact prediction. Okay, so basically, the criteria which were used in impact predictions are magnitude in terms of severity, whether the impact is going to happen or not, spatial and temporal boundaries or extent of the impact. Okay, so in the impact evaluation, the criteria is one of the criteria is the joint consideration of all these criteria which has been used for prediction. That's the first criteria. The second is the likely degree of recovery of the affected environment. Third is the value of affected environment. And the fourth is the level of public concern. And the final one is what is the scientific and professional evidence or professional evidence you have to validate that particular impact. Okay. So now these are general criteria which are necessarily to be checked against the impact what you have predicted for evaluation. So impact evaluation is it's a product of impact characteristics and impact importance. What is that? You will be knowing at the end of this presentation that impact characteristics is something that you measure you are before the project and after the project. So this is that basically you are predicting the impact. So your project is not there, you know the baseline. Now you are predicting what is going to change after the impact. So this is what you call this impact characteristics. Having known this, then we have to know that what is the importance of that particular impact. Is that really important in terms of what value that we are going to lose from that particular environmental impact? So that the product of these two will decide what is the impact significance. Okay, so basically it looks very simple, but in terms of assessing and assigning the value in terms of importance, it takes a lot of scientific work. So UNEP manual defines calculating impact significance as I said in the previous slide, impact characteristics multiplied by impact importance. So you call that as a magnitude, means the severity of the impact you measure. Then what is the value you place on the environmental deterioration, which is called as impact importance. So when I'm going to tell you at the end of this particular video, you will be knowing what is this importance is all about. Then basically you come to decide whether that impact is really significant. If it is significant, whether it's highly significant, moderate significant, or less significant, so on and so forth. Okay. Now the theory behind the impact evaluation. The first, as I said, is the joint consideration of magnitude of the impact, the extent of the impact, and the duration of the impact. So you consider this, all these things, and basically it involves measurement before the project and after the project. So basically it is a technical assessment. So it is a kind of a very scientific and technical systematic assessment. It needs a lot of labor work you have to put into the field in collecting and measuring this particular data, measurements, parameters, so on and so forth. So once it is done, and how these impact characteristics is going to really affect your environment in terms of, for example, resource loss, how much resource we are going to lose because of this particular impact. For example, that if you are converting an agricultural land for industrial purpose, right? So there is a loss of resource from agriculture, right? So from the vegetation loss, and how much of the impact is going to deteriorate the environment in terms of quality deterioration. And the third general value we can place is because the agricultural land is converted into for industrial use, that no, you cannot do any more agriculture. So that is a use foregone. So basically, these are the basically what you call this, how much in terms of damage, loss, or you cannot use it further, and that decides the value. Okay, so this is basically as against impact characteristics. This is a kind of a subjective assessment. Okay, it's a value based assessment, it's a subjective assessment. So here basically what you do, you measure and it's based on facts, but here on the other side, in terms of importance, it is a value judgment. Okay, so how that can be done, I mean, people in this in the expert field, and they know that what is the value of these ecosystems, value of these systems which are going to be affected because of the project. Okay, so now, so how do I know that the impacts impact evaluation are significant? How I'm going to I need some guideline. So some of the examples are after you calculate both of these things and you come up with certain judgment, and that should be compared with, to know the evaluation in terms of compared with environmental standards and thresholds. Okay, so if your assessment end up crossing certain existing environmental standards, then definitely that impact assumes significance. So if your judgment I mean comes to say that it is going to affect the protected and sensitive areas, then definitely it assumes high significance. And for example, it is going to alter some ecological functions. So for example, some projects induce soil erosion, which is an ecological function. So if it creates such kind of thing, then it assumes a value in terms of it has a high value and has high significance. And as I said, in terms of resource and land use loss. Okay, so if you are converting forest or agricultural land for some other purpose, you don't more use that. So you are not going to use that. So that is a loss of resource, right? So these are the examples of how you come to a decision in terms of evaluating your impacts. So this now in real terms, there are a lot of methods I mean people use, especially the experts in the environmental field. They use different kind of methodologies, and this is a theoretical framework. So if you theoretically, they are classified into ad hoc approaches and no other I mean what you call as other non ad hoc approaches. Ad hoc approaches and other approaches which are not ad hoc, right? So the common approaches, which is methods used in impact assessment and evaluation, are checklist, ranking methods, and expert opinion. For example, expert opinion is widely used in evaluating impact importance, okay, because they have experience and they are the experts in the field. So these are the other approaches which are normally used in impact evaluation and prediction. Okay, now the question which may come to your mind is which method I should choose. No, now in impact assessment, the choosing the method is at the discretion of the project proponent or the consultant who is doing this impact analysis. So it is not binding that you have to choose a specific thing and you have to do a detailed analysis. So it is at the discretion of the project proponent and the consultant. Now, what is the advantage and disadvantage? The ad hoc approaches are widely used because they are very simple and they are very quick. On the other hand, other than ad hoc approaches, there are selected few ones which are normally used, like matrices, so on and so forth. They are very complex and they take a lot of time consuming. In terms of differences in the quality of assessment, ad hoc approaches are predominantly qualitative assessment, and the other approaches are either qualitative or quantitative, depending on what you choose. So a quantitative approach method is well preferred because it goes into depth of analysis of your impact. And the other difference is most of the ad hoc approaches are subjective assessment as against objective assessment in non-ad hoc approaches. And when you get the when you get the result in your project proposal, when you read a real proposal, you get the outputs as descriptive impacts, like high, low, medium, long-term, short-term, so on and so forth. But in other approaches like matrices or kind of highly objective ranking methods, you will get numerical values. You will see this example at the end of this slide. Right now, so this is a kind of a theoretical framework, and what is there? The short summary of that is the widely used approach is the ad hoc approach. Okay, and this is not very widely used because of its complexity, but depending on the demand, some consultant or project proponent do kind of in-depth analysis. Secondly, what is required by the regulators is more than ad hoc approach. Right? In ad hoc approach, for them it looks like not depth analysis, so they prefer most kind of non-ad hoc. That is what is a preferable preference at their end, but in reality ad hoc approach is the widely used one. Now this is how the checklist look like, right? So basically you can see the checklist. If they use checklist, they report impact assessment like long-term impact, slightly effective, adverse, beneficial, things like that. Okay, so this is how the checklist looked like. A ranking or a scaling method. Normally the scaling method is employed between the scale of -1 or +1, as if it is a positive impact, from say -5 +5, something like that. So what is that? See, the -1, if you talk about magnitude, magnitude here they mean the extent of the impact of your project. If it is -1, the impacts, look at the description, if the impacts are felt on the site. Okay, so now if it is increasing level, for example -3 is a highly significant impact. If they feel, they say the impacts affect more than 3 kilometer radius from your project site, and -5 impacts affect the whole region, maybe at the national level or so on and so forth. So everybody has their own discretion to fix these norms as far as scaling is concerned. I'm not going into the other things. This is what is basically how does it work. So this is a very simple scale of 3 to -3 for a project, for a hotel resort project. I took a very small sample to explain. So this is from +3 to -3. +3 is a positive impact, for example, highly significant positive impact. +2 is moderate significant, and +1 is slightly significant. 0 is having no impact. And -1 is slightly significant negative impact, -2 is moderately significant negative, and -3 is highly significant negative. Okay, let us take quickly a small example. For example, now water pollution is identified as a potential impact from this hotel project. Now, in the construction phase, the experts, they have given -2, which is basically moderately significant. But during the operation of the hotel, they come to a judgment that it is going to increase and it's going to be highly significant. So after the project closure, right, so the water pollution impact reduces because there is no more operation of the hotel, but still the residual impacts are found around the water bodies, whatever it is, and it will be slightly judged as a slightly negative impact. Now you take say air pollution on the other hand. So because the project construction of the hotel create a lot of highly significant impact at the construction phase, but after the construction, air pollution is considered very less significant, but after the operation is closed, the closure of the stage, it is absolutely have no impact. Now you can see the difference between how the things changes as the impact changes, right? So this is a very important thing. Now, one example on a positive impact, they have identified these are all the positive impact from the project. So one is they say that if the project comes, it will build the infrastructure around that area. Okay. So in terms of impact evaluation at the construction phase, of course, infrastructures are developing, so there is no positive impact. But once the hotel is ready, the roads are paid down and they have, for example, road lamps and some connectivity things started happening, some water distribution system. So during the operation, there is a high positive impact in terms of significance. Then once the project is closed, of course that the roads and whatever they developed, they are still there, people will be using that. So there will be a slightly reducing the positive impact, right? So this is how that for every impact you have to identify what is the positive and negative in all the three phases: construction, operation, and decommissioning phase. And lastly, now if on all these things that some descriptive criteria are used to arrive at these numbers, right? So these are all for what constitute -5 if the impact affects the region. This is very generic, right? So now again here the experts come up with some kind of a generic subjective assessment about what is +3, what is +2, what is +1, and so on with the negative impact. But if the numbers are assigned based on real measurement, right? So this is going to be very, very good for both regulator as well as for the project proponent in terms of making sure that they are doing a good assessment. So this is the equation where now this is called environmental impact unit of a particular impact you identified. I will give you an example about water pollution, which is the last slide. This is like you are measuring the significance of that impact. Okay, so this is like a significance of the impact. Now, significance is nothing but the product of the what you called as the impact characteristics. Here in this case, environmental quality index. So this is a very interesting thing here. What is getting measured? What is the quality of water? If your impact is water pollution, what is the quality of your water before the project and after the project? Then what is the impact importance of that parameter? So now I'll show you a very good example. This is the last slide, that if you identified water pollution as an impact, okay? Now what are you going to measure? What are the parameters, water quality parameters, which are going to change after the project is going to come, right? So in that thing, now here 4 parameters are considered: transparency, odor, dissolved, total dissolved solids, dissolved oxygen, and aquatic biodiversity. So for example, this project, say hotel, is going to release a lot of water emission in terms of water pollution, which is the potential impact of the project. These are going to change this parameter in the receiving environment. It can be a river or your ocean or a stream, whatever it is. Okay. Now, how impact evaluation is done at a very deeper level. The first one is these are before project, which is, what are these called? If you recall, these are baseline environment. Okay. So now you are predicting that this is going to change after the project. Okay. So basically this has no unit transparency, odor, and aquatic. Some numbers are given. So the baseline means the best quality of environment without the project. Then after the project, it reduces to 4, right? So the change in the quality index is 4/10, it is 0.4, right? So what is because it's a ratio, the maximum number of good quality of environment is 1, right? So basically lesser the 1, I mean 0 is poor and 1 is considered the high quality for that particular parameter. Okay, transparency is concerned. So you got that this is what is nothing but your impact characteristics. Okay, this is very, very important. So this is the predicted impact. Then you have to do the same thing for all other parameters. Now let us say for dissolved oxygen, which is a very important parameter. Before the project, it is 9 milligram per liter. After the project, you are predicting it is going to go down to 5. So the change in quality is 0.55, which is half the way in terms of deteriorating dissolved oxygen. So that has been done for all the parameters. Then once this particular area is done, then the experts were given in terms of parameter importance unit. Okay, so this is environmental quality index, which is the impact characteristics. Now it is impact importance. So PIU is a parameter importance. So they will be in this case are given 100 units, which should be distributed to these 5 parameters. Okay, so which parameter is more important, significant in terms of it's going to have a real problem in terms of changing the environmental system. Then the experts, because of the experience, they distribute these points, and higher the distribution, for example, in this case, where is it? Right, transparency, you see that from it's 0.4, which is, I mean, absolutely the magnitude is very high, right? But the importance they gave is 10 out of 100. This is 100. Total point given to them is 100. But as in the case of dissolved oxygen is kind of a medium magnitude, 0.4, 0.5, but they have given very high importance because it's a very, very important parameter, right? Now, if you see the magnitude, right, in terms of the most one which is seriously affected is what you call as total dissolved solids, which is 0.1 closer to 0, means it's going to come down very drastically poor. And second is the odor, and third is the transparency, and fourth is dissolved oxygen, and fifth is the loss of aquatic biodiversity. But in terms of importance, it changes. The first is dissolved oxygen, second is aquatic diversity, third is the total dissolved solids, fourth is the transparency, and fifth, of course, is the odor. Okay, because these parameters are very different. So then you multiply EQI with parameter importance unit, you will be getting the real number for environmental significance. This is what you are trying to evaluate. This is the environmental significance. So the total of that, okay, so the total of that is give you in terms of number, not say highly significant, low significant. Now this number will clearly give you a picture how significant water pollution is as far as the project impact is concerned. So if you notice something here, that the total dissolved solids is 250 milligram per liter before the project, and after it increases to 2000. So in your calculation, because it's a ratio, you have to reverse this 250 over 2000, right? Because here lesser the number is the negative impact. Here higher the number from 250 to 3000 means environmental quality in terms of water quality, in terms of total dissolved solids is decreasing. Okay, so you have to divide 250 by 2000 to get 0.13. Okay, so you have to be careful about those things. Okay, so this is the overall a good sample of how measurement in terms of both prediction and evaluation is carried out. But the question you should ask is, how are we going to evaluate now from these different, for example, now you see here, now you have how many, for samples I have taken climate variation, water pollution, air pollution, and noise. Okay, now if you have 25 impacts, you have to measure like this is quite a lot of work. And in this slide is very interesting. I come back to this slide. Now listen here, that in a negative impact you also find a positive impact. So they identified climate variation in the construction phase as a negative impact, -3, but it becomes +1, +2, it becomes positive, right? It makes a lot of sense because it is a resort project, it is a hotel project. Normally what they do a lot of planting. Always when you go to hotel, you know, they have a lot of vegetation around, so on and so forth, and this vegetation can regulate the low, that microclimate. It has a positive impact in the operation phase. Even after you close the resort, whatever the vegetation and other greenery areas they develop, you know, they will still benefit after the closure. Okay, I don't know, it's good that we come back to this slide. So it is very complex in terms of you critically look into and analyze all kind of things. So if you have any clarification, the first thing is to write to me. I need some clarification on certain equation, how it is done, so on and so forth. And also you discuss with among yourself with the peers, so that you will better understand how one understands from other. So basically this is all about impact analysis, which consists of prediction and evaluation. Okay, so this is the very core part of the whole course, and by finishing this we are coming to the end of the course, except we are left with one, what you call as mitigation. Now I will just start with mitigation before we leave. That now you have identified water pollution as an impact, right? Now what are you going to do is, now you got an evaluation of 50.5. Now we do the same thing for other type of things. Okay, so here, so for water pollution you got closer to 50, right? Now air pollution, you do the same thing with the air parameters, you may get like 35, right? So noise, you may do with noise parameters, you may get like 15, the average impact from the noise. Climate variation, you may get like say 10, right? So these numbers will give you which impact from this project are very significant, that has to be mitigated. So it is very clear by the number, water pollution is highly significant, moderately significant, you can say air pollution, and noise kind of slightly significant, and climate is kind of a negligible thing. So based on this, you will be telling the government what kind of mitigation measures we are going to adopt to reduce these impacts. Right? So then the whole EIA closes. So okay, so the report goes to the government. Government look into all your assessment, evaluation criteria, whatever you use, and they will come to the decision whether to approve your project or ask you to modify and come back with another kind of assessment to resubmit it again. Okay, hope you are bit clear, and as I said, write me back for clarification and also discuss among yourself. Thank you so much.